Hey there, today I wanted to talk about the 1.1 story. This is gonna include spoilers, so if you don't want spoilers, you can skip. I am gonna give a recap of the story and then a few of my thoughts on my rating of the 1.1 story. So we start out with seeing Nanally depressed on the bed after Daffodil got injured and left us in the last chapter episode, and Nanally is very depressed. Then Takedo comes to cheer her up with some tickets to Sunward Isle that he won in a raffle. So we go to Sunward Isle with the appraiser and Nanally to cheer Nanally up while the rest of Avon works on a commission that they still haven't finished. And then when we go to Sunward Isle, we are gonna get greeted by one of the new limited characters coming in 1.2 called Eroy, which has been confirmed to be released in 1.2. She's gonna greet us and show us around the island, kinda like a tour guide, and show us around the resort. So we go to the resort with Eroy and she show us around, show us how the anomaly and everything works. And Nanally decides that she wants to adopt an anomaly and be a guarantor, or rather a parent. But then Eroy tells her that the rules are that kids or adolescents can't adopt anomalies, you have to be an actual adult. And Nanally is furious and goes to talk with the owner, Inan, who is the owner of the resort, who also set up the raffle ticket event, and she's known to be a very famous philanthropist apparently. So Nanally goes to talk to her to convince her to let her adopt an anomaly. Unfortunately, she does not allow Nanally to adopt an anomaly. So Nanally goes outside to see if she can find an anomaly to make a contract to become a future guarantor, which means that she can come and visit the anomaly on the island every day, and then once she's old enough to become a guarantor, she becomes a guarantor of that anomaly. So she tries to find an anomaly to sign these papers, and they end up finding a teddy bear, which Nanally sees as a tiger called a teehee bear, which says that it will sign the papers and return them to the resort with their signature. So Nanally and the appraiser goes home, as the teehee bear will turn in the papers. And on their way home to Avon, Nanally and the appraiser meets Daffodil, and they kind of just talk a bit about Daffodil and stuff like that. And we learn that this new character is called Poinsett, and that she was part of the heist for stealing the auction house heist, that she stole stuff from there that we were there to buy. So after Daffodil and Pointy left, Nanally is very depressed that Daffodil goes with them and she can't understand it. So we go back to Avon to sleep for tomorrow, and when we wake up, Nanally is gone. So we're trying to figure out where Nanally has gone, and we eventually go to ask Blackbird and find out that she went to Sunward Isle on her own, maybe to chase down Daffodil, and that it was probably the teehee bear that led her to Sunward Isle. So we go to find the teehee bear, and we find it on the beach, having vanished Nanally into an anomaly realm that it was told about by a lady that we assume to be Inan. And then the appraiser gets very mad, and we fight the bear and nullify it. Once we nullify the bear, we are sent to the anomaly realm ourselves, where this time person is the owner of this anomaly realm. So time is an anomaly that appears as a person. This is a dimensional anomaly. They take on the form of the previous owner and look like them. And it made this realm of the past, which goes backwards in time. So all the anomalies and stuff inside the realm are walking backwards, and they're stuck in a dream that they can never really escape from. So we go to find Nanally to get her out of this anomaly realm. And we see Nanally run away, so we chase after her. And then we keep chasing after her through different areas in this anomaly realm. And one of these areas we meet Daffodil as a child, and we get some backstory and lore on how Daffodil grew up as a child. And apparently she grew up with this Ina being her mom, and then these other people from the Scarlet Letter being her sisters, and that her mom was very strict and always watching over them, so they couldn't do anything. And they were always forced to do things for her mom. Anyway, we get a little bit lore about Daffodil, and then we go to meet Nanally. Then once we meet Nanally, we get, or before we actually save her, we get some backstory on Nanally as her childhood. How she got bullied by other kids because they didn't believe her that she had this tiger anomaly as a friend, which is actually a cuddly bear, which only children can see, and then the Teehee bear is an anomaly that only adults can see their true form of, but children will see them as a different form. And these anomalies want revenge on the children because the cuddly bears are forgotten when you grow up. So that's the motive of why the Teehee bear has been trapping these anomalies and people inside this realm. So we get that lore and see how Nanally gets her powers, or awaken her powers as a child, and she makes up with her friends. Then later Avon, we see how she joins Avon. Avon as a shop is a new shop that comes on the street that Nanally owns in quotation marks, and she goes to confront Avon, and she breaks an antique that's worth a lot of money, and they tell her that she has to work it off to pay off her debt for breaking the antique, and that's how she joins Avon, and we get the backstory of her. Then we go to save Nanally, but time says that we are not allowed to take Nanally outside the anomaly realm, and then we have to fight her. But we don't want to nullify time as an anomaly, because that will destroy the whole anomaly realm. Instead, we are fighting her to convince her to turn time back to normal, instead of having it be in the past, so that they can all return to the real world, all the anomalies and the people trapped in there. Once we are almost about to convince her, after we win the battle, Daffodil appears and nullifies time, breaking the anomaly realm. And before the anomaly realm breaks down, it's not instant. The Scarlet Letter appears and congratulate Daffodil on doing a good job. And then we get some lore about Daffodil being the sisters and Ina being her mom. That's where we get the confirmation, and we get the confirmation that we met Daffodil as a kid in here, and that's where all that happens. And then one from Scarlet Letters goes to try and kill us, prevent us from taking Nanally home, but the anomaly from the resorts stop her and help us get out of the anomaly realm, and then the Scarlet Letter returns on their own after we leave the anomaly realm. But once we leave the anomaly realm, we find out with time that half of Nanaly's soul is stuck inside this broken anomaly realm, so she can't wake up, and Nanally is stuck in this sleep. And we go back to Avon, we talk to Hotori, we fill her in on all that's happened, and then we get a cutscene where we see Nanally sleeping in her bed, and we talk to Nanally, and then it ends. And that's the entire 1.1 story. It takes around 2 hours to complete, I heard a lot of people saying that they didn't really like the story, or that it was very dragged out and it was way too long. In my opinion, I honestly thought that the story was pretty well paced. I didn't feel like there was at any point where I wanted to skip the story. I actually enjoyed the entire story personally. I thought there was a lot of really pretty areas in the story as well. I understand that maybe all the childhood lore stuff might be boring to some people, and walking around the resort, getting a little bit of the lore of how the resort works might be really boring to some people. I can understand those parts, but honestly, I thought the story was pretty good. The scenes were pretty good. I really hated the fight though that we had to do in the story. I thought it was way too long, way too dragged out, and the fight only had like 3 mechanics that you just had to repeat over and over for like 15 times to actually kill the boss. And one, it was way too easy. Two, it was way too repetitive. Three, it took way too long because the boss had way too much HP. I don't know if there was any like pop-ups or something you could do to make it faster, because I played without the UI on. But yeah, the fight was actually the worst part. I think it was cool to get introduced to one of the new Scarlet Letter characters, and we even got her name, which suggests that maybe she's coming on 1.3 or 1.4. She might be one of the next limited characters. I actually quite like her design personally. I don't know about you guys, you can tell me in the comments below how you find her design, but I actually liked her design. I think the story overall was probably a 7 out of 10. There's definitely things to improve on, and especially the boss fights can be improved. But I think overall the story was actually pretty good. It was well paced. I feel like they could have revealed a bit more, given us a bit more intel on Daffodil and the whole thing. It felt more like a side story for Nanally herself, and get some lore on Nanally. Not really that much of a main story, but a lot of NTE's main story is kind of side story, like the Takedo dating and stuff like that. So I think that's just how it's meant to be. And I don't mind it too much, I think it's okay. But it's definitely a slow paced story, which makes it feel like a side story, because we're getting a lot of the side story lore stuff. Like, we could have gotten all the Nanally childhood lore stuff from a pink quest, a pink side quest for her. They could have done it that way. But the main plot points are moving kind of slow, which I guess people can say is the slow part of the story. That the main plot points of the story is moving pretty slow, which I agree with. But I don't think the actual pacing of the 1.1 story was slow, but it's just the main plot points are slow. We're not getting a lot of main plot points. We're getting a lot of back lore and backstory and all that stuff, which a lot of lore people will enjoy, but maybe not so much the people that just want a main story and then skip all the side stuff. So yeah, I mean, that's my only really critique. I mean, you can always make animation, storytelling and stuff like that better, and I don't think the story hit as hard as some other stories, like Woowa 3.1 story. If you played Woowa, hit really hard. I don't think this hits as hard in comparison, not even close to, which is why it's a 7 out of 10, but I still think it's a good story overall, so I do want to rate it a 7. That's at least my thoughts on the story. Let me know your thoughts on the story in the comment section below. That's gonna be everything for my story recap and opinion of the story. Let me know what you think is gonna happen in the future for the story. How is Daffodil gonna turn out? Why is she joining the Scarlet Letter? Let me know your theories down below. That is gonna be everything for today. Hope to see you again.